This is The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Heisman, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking about how one day to exit stage left. Today I have a very special guest on the show, Tabitha Regan. Tabitha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you are the managing partner and the owner and founder of LittleOwl CPA.
That's right, yes.
So talk about this. What kind of service do you provide? Because I've been fortunate to have some experiences with you in the M&A space. And I noticed how good you were at what you did. In this small little segment of what I'm working with you on, talk about your firm and what you do.
Yeah, so LittleOwl CPA is a public accounting firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. As a public accounting firm, I work with small businesses, entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals, and I am an accountant. I do tax work, tax planning, and business advisory, and those are really my core competencies, the things that I do best for my clients.
So, you've had this business now for 3.5 years, but you've been in the CPA space for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we joked earlier. I didn't know you could start in CPA space at 5 years old.
Right.
So,
thank you. I appreciate that.
20 years of work. Explain this.
Yeah. So I started in 2005. I was still in college, and I was just so eager to get into the space and really figure out what I was doing after I graduated that I started my senior year. And then I haven't left. I've loved it ever since. So yeah, it was a great experience to get right in the ground floor before I even graduated to know what I was going to get into.
Well, talk about that transition. So you were a CPA for 16 and a half years, obviously working different jobs. But what was the impetus for you going, I think I want to open up my own firm?
Yeah, I grew up, one of my early role models in my family was a business owner, and that was my grandfather. So he worked from home before it was cool to work from home. He had a business and was an entrepreneur. He provided for his family 100%. He took long vacations in the summer. He was home for dinner every night. It was just a really cool example to look at and really want to strive for. And so when I knew I wanted to go into accounting, I felt like one day I want to own my own firm. That was always my North Star. And so I realized very quickly going into accounting that you don't get to just do that after a couple years. You really need to pay your dues, get your reps in, put a lot of time into the work, and really know and learn what you do best and figure out your space in that industry. And I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how long it was going to take for me to get there. And at the firm, after I graduated, I worked at a firm, at local firms, small firm. Worked there for 13 years. Of those 13 years, 7 years I was a partner, and felt like, gosh, I checked that box. I'm a business owner now, I'm a partner. But at some point I felt like I really had more to give. And that's when I had the idea, let me figure out what this looks like if I were to start my own business.
So I was incorrect. You're a KSU graduate.
That's
which
right.
has the mascot as the owl.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the name. Talk about the name.
Yeah, so LittleOwl CPA. I spent a lot of time trying to come up with a creative and interesting name. I feel like in the industry, all of the CPA firms are named after people, and it's just a bunch of people's last names. And I just felt like, gosh, we've got such a bad reputation in the industry of being kind of boring. And so I was like, I want just something a little fun and interesting. And I really felt like from day one, the client and the service provided to the client should be the priority, not me and my name. So LittleOwl CPA is actually symbolic of what I aim to be for my clients. So Little Owl is the owl that's often depicted on Athena, the goddess of wisdom. That owl is a guide or advisor to her that's helping her make decisions. And so I aim to be that for my clients. Be their little owl on their shoulder, helping them make decisions, helping them think through problem solving. And I just loved that symbolism, that I loved it so much I wanted to name my company.
Wow, yeah, I love that. I did not know that. That is really cool, actually.
Thank you.
So, I've had the fortune of being on Zooms with you for some very large transactions that, we've been a part of. And I've watched you handle yourself with some of the largest law firms and specialty divisions in those law firms in the world. Some of the largest law firms. I won't mention names, obviously. But then I watched you also step up and kind of put some of these people in their place in a respectful way and come up and, you weren't intimidated by the cachet or the logos that stood behind all these individuals. You were strong with what you thought. Talk about that. I watched that. That's why we're sitting here today, because I was blown away at how you handled yourself in a room of all these individuals in a Zoom of everybody who's apparently a specialist, but you enlightened a lot of these professionals to different vantage points. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think, like I said, accountants don't have the best reputation, but I think there is a need for creativity in accounting. And really, creativity is kind of pulling two independent ideas, bringing them together. And I think with accounting and being an advisor to business owners really requires you to think about it in their shoes. What could I do based on my knowledge and expertise and bring it forward to a practical level? Like, what is the real answer here? How do we get to the finish line? How do we get to the desired outcome? Let's not get so hung up on some of the technicalities that we can't see the end in sight. I think that's really important for a business owner to have somebody on their side that's on their team and that's not just trying to bill billable hours or just trying to crank out paperwork. Really, you want somebody to give them real advice. What would I do if I were in the client's shoes? And that's what I aim to do when I'm advising clients.
Well, you aim and you hit the target. So I have had a chance to watch it firsthand. So talk about your clientele. As you said, you work with high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, and not everybody does the right thing all the time. They make financial mistakes. What are some of the top financial mistakes that maybe your clients or you've had experience with that you could warn some of our audience about?
Yeah, it's amazing. No matter what amount of money you make, some people really are living paycheck to paycheck and they're millionaires. It's bananas when I look at the clients that are struggling to pay their tax liabilities and the others that are just lean and taking care of business. So it really doesn't matter how many zeros are behind what you make. I think it's about what you do with those resources that really matter. So paying your tax liabilities on time, thinking ahead strategically to your long-term goals. So if your objective is to retire at 50, you can do that. You just have to plan way ahead of time. You can't figure that goal out at 45. You really got to set the tone of what your long-term plan is early on.
And do you meet with your clients? Do you discuss this and do you map out their next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah. So both individual and business clients should have a roadmap, should have a tax plan that aligns with their long-term goals. So we often do that for individuals in tandem with their investment advisor. So for their investment advisor, they have investment objectives, but we want to make sure that meets their overall, personal financial wealth goals. And sometimes that can be really helpful if they're wanting to minimize taxes but maximize savings. We can say, okay, here's a menu of options that you might not even know you have available to you, and we want you to be informed and educated about your options. And then you get to choose what you do with that information, but we can at least say, here's how you can meet those goals. And I think particularly with business owners, it's incredibly valuable to have that strategic planning for both your long-term business goals, but also thinking about what's your exit strategy to exit the business? What does that look like and how does that fit your long-term goals?
You know what the process of due diligence is. In the M&A world, it's hard enough to get an LOI, letter of intent, and then the real work happens with due diligence. How much foresight do you have with your clients knowing they want to exit that you start preparing for due diligence in advance? What recommendations do you have for people for that?
Yeah, I like to ask that question before they're even clients to say, what's your game plan? Where do you see this business going? If you've got a business in play that you're just starting, what is your timeline to exit or your objective? Do you want to pass it along to your kids? Do you want to sell it to an outside party? Do you just want to close shop and not worry about doing anything? That's an option. But yeah, the answer is you want to have good data. You want to have good accounting and systems in place. And you can't prove what the value of your company is if you don't have that good data. So something as simple as just having a really good, strong accounting system and having ways to really evaluate your data to know whether or not a certain business line is profitable. How much are you really charging? Is it enough? Can you compare that to the marketplace to say, am I actually a premium service? Am I charging my customers enough? So all of those things are very valuable, and it really starts at that baseline of data. Having good data on the front end really gives you a lot of information on the back end.
And it makes it easier on the back end.
Absolutely.
No question about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk about the back end, because you've had a 20-year illustrious career. Past 3.5 years, you opened your own firm.
Yeah.
And just a few weeks ago, you actually made a pivot here. You're now the managing partner in a firm because you have a partner.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk about this.
Thank you. So yes, so my business partner, Richard, is fantastic. He's been with me for about 2.5 years. And when he came to me, I was not looking for a business partner. I wasn't thinking about that. But he and I, our career paths have crossed previously, and we reconnected, and I just knew his background. I knew his experience was really in alignment with what I was trying to grow and build in my new firm. And when he came on board, that was his objective. Like, hey, I want to be a partner. I want to be an owner. And so we built a partner track together to make sure the plan worked for both of us. And it gave me a chance to, test drive before I committed to buying the car, that kind of idea. But it also gave him that, that career development, that long-term path that he was looking for. And we were both satisfied.
So he worked with you for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did do the test drive.
We did.
Would you recommend this for other business owners thinking about partnership?
Absolutely. I always say date before you get married. You would never step up to the plate on day one and commit to a yes if you've never met them, unless you're on some crazy reality show. But yeah, it's a great way to see how you work. You face challenges together in that time period, and you can see how they problem solve. And I think it really shows, what somebody's made of when they're facing problems, not just when it's all the good stuff. Like, we all know how to handle all the good stuff. How do we problem solve together? What do we do together when we're faced with challenges?
So what was, and again, if Richard's watching this now, maybe he knows the answers. What was the impetus for this mark of January 1st or 2025? Like, hey, I'm going to give you a year's runway, 2 years. This is about 2.5 years. Why was this timing right?
Well, it's a nice, clean start of a year.
I wonder who's the CPA in the room, right?
Yeah, I know. Very type A.
Okay.
Very, very type A. But yeah, no, really and truly, it came down to, we had certain metrics we were working towards together. So we had a roadmap that we worked on together from day one. And he met all that criteria and by a landslide. And so we hit the ground running in the fall to make up this plan. And we were super excited to kick things off in January.
So what are the next steps for LittleOwl?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to grow the team. I think that we're only as good as our kind of lowest denominator. So building up the team, really having a strong bench is really critical. I have a limitation to what I can offer because I have only so many hours in the day. So I've got to be able to transfer and translate my knowledge and expertise to each of my team members, make sure we're all working on the same vision and being aligned in what our service delivery is, what we're doing for our clients. And so, our focus in the next year is developing the team and adding some new hires, bringing on some new team members, and continuing to grow the practice.
So before we wrap up, I've got to ask this first. You're so eloquent in the way that you talk. I watch the way you work. It is equally as eloquent or elegant in the way that you work. But here's the question for you. People that are watching this today are going to look and go, Tabitha makes it look easy. To me, you make it look easy. But I know that's not true. Talk about maybe in the past year, 2 of your biggest challenges you've had to overcome. Because you said it best, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can do something good, but it's the hard time. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, for sure. I can think of so many. Honestly, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in this profession in general. When I went out on my own, I didn't know if any of my clients were going to come with me. I didn't know what the marketplace would really be interested in me and how the marketplace would accept me as a new business owner. And I was really shocked to learn that wasn't the case. But some of the challenges and kind of growing pains is making sure you're getting the right clients and not taking on expectations that aren't realistic for you and your team. So as I said, I'm a limited resource, and so I've got to make sure I'm bringing on qualified clients that are a good fit for me and my skill sets and my team. And so that was a little bit of growing pains that we experienced in the last year where there was some mismatch. We had to be very particular about who we qualify and consider a good client, and really refining that based on what our team can handle, what their capacity is, making sure all of our systems and processes are in place to meet those needs. I would say is the biggest challenge, is just growing pains and making sure you're ready to pivot and adapt to those things as that information becomes available.
When's the last time, if you have, fired a client?
I would say...
Not by name, I'm just saying.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, I did have a parting of the ways with a client because we ultimately were not able to service them in the way they need to be serviced.
Or the way they thought they needed to be serviced.
Yeah, and it was we had a bit of just challenge with that being, we just weren't the right fit. And ultimately, you've got to make that business call. I mean, it's great to have the revenue in, but if they're not the right fit, they're not the right fit.
Yeah,
and it is best for both of us. And I've got to be I'm saying, look, it's on me. I didn't do a good job of bringing you on. I want to make sure this transition is smooth for you. Let me make sure you're taken care of, and that's how we've handled it.
So again, your ubiquitous perspective, omniscient perspective, you see absolutely as very stellar in your success.
Oh, thank you.
So look, time flies when we're having fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make you look at the camera directly, don't worry. But tell me how people get in touch with you, because I know I don't want you to bite off more than you can chew. I have a ton of opportunities for you. We've talked about that as you're growing this. But for people out there watching this, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would say some free resources that we have available if you go to our website, www.littleowlcpa.com. We have a tax planning guide that you can download and peruse at your disposal. So that's just some free resources. On Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, we have weekly posts where we post tax tips, deadline reminders, a lot of good resources for free. And I think that tells you the type of information that we are experts at and how we can help our clients. So yeah, find us online. We'd be happy to set up discovery calls. We are on a wait list right now until tax season's over. So
Absolutely.
We're bringing on new clients in May 1st.
So tax season is end of April, May 1st, new clients.
That's right.
Tabitha
Yes.
Regan. Wow, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Lee.
What a treat, you were wonderful.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope the show was insightful for you as it was for me. It always is with her, always insightful. We hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Roadmap.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.